What's up, everybody? Welcome to Port Arthur, Texas, the hometown of Bun B and Pimp C.
Chad Lamont Butler, aka Pimp C, one half of the iconic rap group UGK, was born to Wesley Butler, aka Mama West, on December 29th of 1973. Chad was interested in music ever since being a youth. His father was a trumpet player who once played professionally with Solomon Burke and a few other reputable people. At one point, his pops was even a professional blues singer. It was no secret that Pimp grew up around music. The music by artists such as Bobby Blue Bland, Jimmy Smith, and Jimmy McGriff from the 60s and 70s would be a huge impression on Pimp, as he would learn to play the organ by ear at an early age. Unbeknownst to many, the first group that Pimp was in was DMI, aka Dangerous Music Incorporated. Years later, while in junior high, Pimp was linked with Mitchell Queen, coming together as UGK, aka Underground Kings. Bun, who was Mitch's partner, was in a group with another dude. The two would come through and get music from Pimp at his crib. It was this relationship that would lead to them eventually hanging at Pimp's crib every other day. From then on out, Pimp was producing for Bun's group. It wouldn't be long before Bun's homie would lose faith in making it as a rapper, setting the tone for Bun and Pimp to officially be UGK. Let's move on. Percy Miller, who you now know today as Master P, hails from New Orleans, Louisiana, the Calio Project to be exact. P was the mastermind behind his label, No Limit Records, marketing and promotions. What set P apart from most was that he was good at finding ways to break new artists without pressuring them to make music outside of their comfort zones. While hip-hop continued to adjust to its own commercial presence in the 90s, No Limit artists were going platinum, selling street rap. Soon, that success would lead to an unprecedented distribution deal with a major label, Priority Records. The first album to come out of that deal was Master P's 1996 classic, The Ice Cream Man. Executives at Priority thought the project would only sell around 10,000 units once it was released. Surprising to them, it would go on to be P's first national platinum selling album. P, who always felt that UGK had a good sound, would eventually start working with Pimp for music production. The connection between the two was made by Moby Dick, who was already working with UGK. This business partnership would, however, turn sour. Mama West, who was handling all of the business for Pimp at the time, had an altercation with P over a business situation with Pimp. They would have a heated exchange over the phone that would ultimately end up with Mama West speaking to P disrespectfully.
But anyway, C already had a project for that night. And he called me early in the morning and he wanted them to come. And I said, well, can't do it because C has a project.
Master P called me.
Yeah. And I said, he's got a project. He's got to be in the studio at 6. And C happened to be in the apartment when I was talking to him. Which I didn't really know C was in the apartment. I would have, read my conversation. But I said, well, we just can't do it, but we can come tomorrow. And he said, well, his words were, well, their shit ain't gonna get played, mine is. And I said, well, their money is just as green as yours. So you either want them tomorrow or you don't want them at all. And he said something back to me and I said, well, fuck you then.
Overhearing this phone call, Pimp would ask who she was on the phone with. Reluctant to say at first, Mama West ended up telling Pimp that it was P she was on the phone with.
And C happened to be in the apartment when I was talking to him. which I didn't really know C was in the apartment. I would have, read my conversation. Okay, and C heard this conversation going on, and he's like, "Who's that you talking to?" I said, oh, and and I'm looking at, I said, "Oh, that was just some business, And he said, "Who's that you talking to, Mama?" And I said, "Well, it was P." I said, "But it's no problem."
This immediately changed Pimp's attitude towards P. Pimp would still do work with P, although Ray Charles could see that he had an obvious problem with P.
I could tell.
It was for like a whole song, not just.
Yeah, it was a whole song, but I could tell that while we were there, that C was he was standoffish. Mm-hmm. He did the work, and he could do his best work when he was pissed off. So he did the work because he wanted to get it done and leave. Mm-hmm. But we ended up staying 2 or 3 days because he ended up doing a lot of work. But he did that, but I could tell, that there was that little thing.
Some would say that Pimp C never got paid for the production of Break 'Em Off Something, which he did for P. Everyone to hold his tongue, Pimp C started talking bad about P to people on the street and throughout the industry. Over time, the issue would escalate, so much so that whenever Pimp or UGK will perform at shows, he'll yell out "Fuck Master P" in the whole No Limit, getting the audience to chant it along with him.
I know he touched him. I know the conversations Pimp was having, deriving from him doing work, being not paid by P. Pimp started having these conversations at places where, P was picking up money. So, if Pimp on stage with your 2,500 motherfucking fans telling them fuck Master P, at that time when that's your fans too, you gonna feel some kind of way.
Word would spread fast, getting back to P in his No Limit camp. Refusing to accept the blatant disrespect, P would not take this lightly by any stretch of the imagination. Jimmy Keller, cousin of Master P and ex-fiancé of Mia X, was a certified gangster who was highly respected in the mean, grimy streets of New Orleans. Having already done an 8-year bid on a manslaughter charge, Jimmy was definitely with the shits. During the BET-produced documentary on his life, P would run an up about Jimmy getting hit up 8 times during a failed robbery attempt.
Guys drive up. All of them got guns. So they tell me, you know what it is. I throw my money up in the air, then run. I hear shots. They leave, I hear the car squeak off. Hot boy, he laying on the ground, they shot him 8 times.
Needless to say, Jimmy would survive the shooting and before long be back on his gangster shit. Now let's get back to Pimp C. Pimp will go on record to say while at a hotel in Cali, several men wearing No Limit ski masks and cut off leather gloves opened his hotel room door with a key. The men beat the brakes off Pimp and whipped him with a pistol, gone so far as to putting the pistol in his mouth. Pimp suspected the little broad he was with of setting him up and giving them a key to the hotel room. During the process, Pimp would say that P took his mask off and revealed that it was him with the goons, going on to say that it was Jimmy who put the pistol in his mouth. Mia X, Jimmy's fiance at the time, had no idea what had went down. When interviewed, she would give her take on what was actually told to her.
There was an altercation with Pimp and like Master P and him before.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. So didn't he, from my understanding, he wanted his masters back, or P owed him some money, or there was some...
You know what? I never knew. This is the honest truth. I never knew what happened between them. I didn't think P ever had any masters of his. I didn't really know what the problem was. But what happened, this guy that I was engaged to be married to, people called me and was telling me that he was in Houston and he had some kind of fight with Pimp C. And when I didn't believe it because it was supposedly had happened in Houston, and Jimmy was home in New Orleans. So I kept saying, well, that's impossible. But when it all came down to the come down, it had actually happened. Jimmy had caught a flight like 5 o'clock in the morning, and he was back in New Orleans by 11 a.m. And so I never knew that he even left the city. So when Pimp C called me, I was very nervous because I had considered him a friend, and I didn't know, how he felt about that whole situation that had took place with him and Jimmy. It was in a hotel room. Yes. That was that incident. This is the thing. I was in a total blind of the whole thing, so by the time I spoke with Pimp C, that was the first thing I wanted to say because I felt like I didn't want me and him to run into each other in the street and it be some chaos because I heard it was like a big old incident that happened. I was like, Chad, I don't even know what to say. I didn't know that happened to you. I said, that guy was home so early, I went to that like it couldn't have never happened. Me and this guy, we ended up going out in a blaze of gunfire, and he's dead. I was telling, I was like, he died. I was so blindsided by that incident, and it hurt me so bad because I had really become friends with Chad and Bun over the years. That incident happened, and everybody started calling me because I was doing the time. No Limit was high. Guys, magazines, but yeah, it was like, we heard your husband bust in a hotel and, was fighting Pimp C, and I was like, no, that's not the truth. And it was like, well, I think it is the truth, Mia. You probably need to figure that out. Like, the phone just, every time one person hang up, somebody else would call, and they were saying it. So I asked him, well, did that happen? Did you do that? And he was like, no, I was here. What you talking about? And so I was like, that's what I keep telling people. Like, that really, like, went under my nose, and it really, really hurt my feelings when I found out that actually did happen, Well, one of the guys from No Limit, he said it. And so I said, is that the truth? And he was like, yeah, that's the truth. He was like, Jimmy did that early in the morning. And so I was like, wow, that's really messed up, So when I confronted Jimmy about it, he was like, well, we got into it, and we've been getting into it over different situations. He was like, when C be on the road, he get on the mic and he just always saying, fuck Master P and fuck us. And I was like, but that don't have nothing to do with anything, like with somebody saying on the mic. And, I really didn't know what the situation was that led to that. But at the end of the day, I was happy to talk to him. I was happy that he spoke with P, and whatever that situation was, they fixed that.